Good afternoon, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society bringing you another special update on Melissa out here into the Caribbean Sea. It did not become a hurricane at the 11 a.m. advisory, but it's probably a hurricane now. There has been a very large and powerful development of a hot tower, or I guess you would call it a severe thunderstorm, off to the northeastern side of the center of circulation, and it is going bonkers. I've got here, let's see if we can get the rest of the frames on this. This is our infrared image. Watch this area of this bursting shower and thunderstorm activity right here. This was quite intense, and is still remaining very cold cloud tops associated with that. If we were to switch over to our visible satellite loop, you can see that large thunderstorm just blow up there on the what is considered the northeastern side of the circulation here. We are definitely gaining a much better structure to this, and it is going to continue to intensify as we go forward here. And the of 70 miles an hour. Yeah, it seems like I'm having an issue over here. I do apologize, folks. Um, I don't see anything on Facebook, and that's the problem. Give me just 1 second to make sure that we're good. Um, yeah, now it suddenly appears. Wow, we've got some serious lag. Um, okay, yeah, no, it's not just you there, James. I'm having a technical difficulty here. Um, I will go back through and we'll go over the particulars again. I don't know what occurred, but I am aware of it. I am looking. I don't see anything on my end. I believe it may have been um, internet based there. So I do apologize. As of the 11 a.m. advisory, we are located at 16.5 north, 75.1 west, about 155 miles southeast of Kingston, Jamaica, about 235 miles southwest of Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Maximum sustained winds remain at 70 miles an hour for that advisory, and it is currently moving west northwest at a blazing 1 mile an hour. Minimum central pressure is 982 millibars. There were no changes with this advisory. We still have a hurricane warning in effect for all of Jamaica. A hurricane watch is in effect for the southwestern peninsula of Haiti from the border of the Dominican Republic around to Port-au-Prince. A tropical storm warning is in effect for that exact same area there in Haiti. Interest elsewhere in Haiti, the Dominican Republic, eastern Cuba, and southeastern and central Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands should monitor the progress of Melissa. Watches could be required for portions of eastern Cuba later today. Scrolling down to the most important portion of our public advisory issued by the National Hurricane Center that covers all hazards affecting land. Wind. Tropical storm conditions are expected to begin in Jamaica by tonight, with hurricane conditions expected by Sunday or Monday. Tropical storm conditions are expected and hurricane conditions are possible within the watch and warning area in Haiti later today. Rainfall. Melissa is expected to bring a total rainfall of 15 to 25 inches to portions of southern Hispaniola and Jamaica into Wednesday, with local maxima of 35 inches possible across eastern Jamaica and the Tiburon Peninsula of Haiti. Any additional heavy rainfall is likely beyond Wednesday, but exact storm totals are still uncertain. Catastrophic flash flooding and landslides are expected across southwestern Haiti and portions of Jamaica, with the possibility of catastrophic flood impacts also extending across the remainder of southern Haiti into southern Dominican Republic. For eastern Cuba, total rainfall of 5 to 10 inches with local amounts of to 15 inches are expected into Wednesday, resulting in life-threatening flash flooding and landslides. Additional heavy rainfall is likely beyond Wednesday. Uncertainty at that time range precludes exact storm totals. Storm surge. Life-threatening storm surge is becoming more likely along the south coast of Jamaica later in the weekend or early next week. Peak storm surge heights could reach 7 to 11 feet above ground level, near and to the east of where the center of Melissa makes landfall. This storm surge will be accompanied by large and destructive waves. 7 to 11 feet has gone up from the previous advisory that was at 5 to 10 feet. There is a potential for significant storm surge along the southeast coast of Cuba early next week, and our swells and rip currents. Folks in the Caribbean, stay out of the water, please. We've got enough threat to life going on. We do not need to expand it by folks being dragged offshore by a rip current. Our forecast cone, as you can see, there has been not much shift, maybe just a little bit of a tick to the right. We will check that off of the University of Albany's website here momentarily. But again, all of the island of Jamaica is underneath a hurricane warning, and we have our hurricane watch and tropical storm warning out here for southwestern Haiti. This is about as bad as it can get, folks. Looking at the radar out of Kingston, Jamaica, we do see the development of the center of circulation trying to create a closed eye wall. I have heard reports that the eye wall itself is closed, but I will wait for hurricane reconnaissance. I mean, these last couple frames certainly look like it, but there may be a break here and there. Zooming into the 240 kilometer range does not get us any views, but the 480 kilometer range, we can definitely see where that center of circulation is here off to the southeast of Jamaica. Looking at our 12Z spaghetti plots, there will be some graphics that will be duplicated from this morning's live, just due to the fact that we have not yet. So there, no, we'll keep that one. I wanted to show halves. All right, let me get rid of the EPAC and everything. We ain't got much to talk about that out there. I'll just kill those frames. Maybe that'll help increase the RAM capability of the computer. I've got so many tabs open that it's not even remotely close to being funny. So we will now jump back here. Let me make sure we are back live. Yes. Okay. All right. Good deal. All right. Our spaghetti plots again, we are on the central or eastern portions of the island of Jamaica and then rushing out to the northeast. So, folks, rush all preparations to completion. Folks in Cuba, southeastern Bahamas, central Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, you guys need to prepare for the potential of a hurricane arriving in the coming days. Looking at the HCCA consensus aid, we can see that there has been a steady drift back towards the east, getting it south of central Jamaica and then kind of cutting it northeast and maybe just clipping the eastern portion of the island. This would be a ideal scenario for folks here in Kingston because you would be on the western side of the circulation at its closest approach. You would still definitely see some storm surge as it is on approach, but you may not see that the highest values that it could give you. Now, jumping over to our trends, the GFS, we've got the 6Z, I've got the 12Z. It has shifted well to the west. The GFS 12Z run has shifted back to the west and now is showing potential landfall there in Jamaica. The Euro, we do know that it is sitting south and kind of coming in there on the eastern side of the island. The UK Met has been performing horribly. The CMC has been performing horribly. So we're not really looking into them as much viable options as they could be. The H Wharf is well off to the left of the island as of the 6Z run. Again, we will have all of the 12Z runs when we come live again at 6 p.m. As far as the intensity is concerned, though, Category 4. HMON at the 6Z is central portions or maybe west central Jamaica at that point, bringing it again to a Category 4 status. Halves A, 6Z wants to put this into central Jamaica, though it also wants to bring this only up to a Category 4. If you remember with some of the previous runs, we had a Category 5 system. It seems like, I'm not going to say a Category 5 has been removed off of the table, but it does look like that some of those odds have lowered slightly here over the last few model runs, though the opportunity for a Category 5 definitely still is on the table. Halves B has this more into central Jamaica, maybe getting into like east central Jamaica there at that point as of the 6Z, and it has also come back off of the Category 5 intensity down to around a mid-range Category 4. Now, again, Category 5 is still on the table here, folks. The TC coamps, as we can see here, eastern portions stalls just south of the island. This would be absolutely terrible. This would lead to almost a worst case scenario for folks there in Kingston. And it is containing around that Category 4 strength, 120 knots, somewhere in that range of around 140, maybe 145 miles an hour. That is not the official forecast. Do not rely on one single model. Trust your official sources. Again, there is the HCCA consensus. This runs to the 12Z, and as you can see, the last two runs have been pretty much right on top of each other after promoting a easterly drift here along the last few runs. As far as intensity is concerned, a mid-grade Category 3. Please keep in mind that the consensus takes into account all of multiple models and multiple intensity runs. The TVCN consensus is more in and around Old Harbor, getting in towards Kingston. and then making that right hand turn there over eastern portions of the island. And it is going to be at a low end category 3 on the IVCN consensus intensity. Though we can talk all about the models all we want. When it comes to the official forecast, they're the ones. And as you could see here, the National Hurricane Center did kind of shift this a little bit to the south, and we'll go over it here in the discussion. They will explain all that. And then a slight tick to the east. Just very, 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 very little. Though the intensity has not come down through the previous discussions. We are still looking at a 155 high-end Category 4 hurricane making landfall. So as of the 11 a.m. discussion, we are going to read this whole thing out. Melissa is very nearly a hurricane. Data from both the Air Force Reserve hurricane hunters indicate the storm has become better organized with a 20 nautical mile wide eye wall that has been coming and going. This structure has also been seen on radar images out of Kingston, Jamaica. Compared to last night, tail Doppler radar data indicates the tropical cyclone is much better aligned vertically, though some residual eastward tilt with heights exist in the mid-levels. The peak flight level winds at 700 millibars were up to 68 knots. Using a standard 0.9 adjustment factor to surface winds yields an intensity of 60 knots. But Melissa could become a hurricane at any time, as other satellite intensity estimates already support a higher value. The initial motion is crawling along to the west-northwest, estimated between aircraft fixes to be 285 knots or 85 degrees at 1 knot. Now that the tropical cyclone has become better aligned vertically, it should increasingly feel the deep layer steering, which has a slight south of due west component from the latest Euro steering diagnostics. The spread in the model solution, even in the next 12 to 36 hours, is higher than usual, with the AI models, Google DeepMind Ensemble and the Euro AI, on the south and western side of the guidance envelope, showing a westward or even west-southwestward motion in the short term, while the traditional dynamical aids, Euro and halves, show more of a west-northwest drift towards Jamaica over the next 24 to 36 hours. Still, though, nearly all of the reliable track guidance, discounting the GFS, which has been an eastward outlier since the storm formed, which, again, terrible performance with the GFS, shows Melissa making landfall in Jamaica sometime in the 60 to 72 hour time frame. During this time, a digging mid-latitude trough in the southeastern United States is expected to create a new weakness in the north of Melissa, which should result in the cyclone taking a sharp turn to the northeast. While the guidance is in good agreement on this general turn with relatively small across track spread, there remains high along track spread in the solutions, best highlighted by the Google DeepMind Ensemble, which shows a spread in possible locations in 96 hours from still inland over Jamaica to northeast of Cuba in the southwestern Atlantic. The NHC track forecast is a touch south of the prior track forecast for the first 24 hours, but converges on the prior track forecast thereafter. This is a little on the eastern side of the track guidance envelope, giving credence to the AI model solutions of the Google DeepMind and Euro AI, which to date are the best performing track guidance this hurricane season. Please allow me to highlight that all on its own. We watch these models every day. This is why we put, a little bit more credence into some of them, because they have earned that credibility over the season. Melissa seems to be shaking off the negative effects of westerly shear now that the storm is becoming better vertically aligned. Thus, it appears likely that a period of rapid intensification will occur as the storm moves slowly over warm ocean waters, 31 to 30 to 31 degrees Celsius, which is also over the highest oceanic heat content in the entire Atlantic basin, which will limit initial ocean upwelling under the slow moving storm. Similar to previous cycles, roughly 40 out of 50 of the Google DeepMind ensemble members show Melissa becoming a Category 5. While I am not ready to forecast that intensity yet, given the track uncertainty, that remains a possibility. After 48 hours, inner core processes such as eye wall replacement cycles could cause fluctuations in intensity, but Melissa is still expected to make landfall in Jamaica as an upper end Category 4 hurricane, which could be the strongest direct landfall for the island since tropical cyclone record keeping has been made in the Atlantic basin. Weakening is expected as Melissa moves over the higher terrain of Jamaica and eastern Cuba, with further weakening expected thereafter as southwesterly vertical wind shear increases. The NHC intensity forecast remains on the high end of the guidance, but closest to the Google DeepMind ensemble mean, which has also been one of our best intensity guidance performers this year. And we still, 48 hours, 155 miles an hour. That's only 2 miles an hour short of being a Category 5 hurricane. It starts at 157, though the National Hurricane Center issues by increments of 5. So we would need to see that jump up to 160 to be officially forecast as a Category 5. And for those, I am going to mention that this is Dr. Papin that wrote this forecast and wrote this discussion. And if he is not ready to forecast those intensities yet, I trust his instincts completely. That man is extraordinarily intelligent. I would highly recommend, if anybody is interested in the Central American Gyre, to look up his studies. Look up his scientific papers on the Central American Gyre. It absolutely amazing. Very informative, very thorough, and extremely educational for those who would like to learn more. Taking a quick look at Earth Null, we've got our trusty green circle right here onto the center of circulation. We are going to now go up in the atmosphere and seek vertical alignment. We also note that we're starting to get a very, very tight compression of these wind readings. We're really starting to pick up some wind speed. Jumping up to approximately 5,000 feet above the ocean surface, we are vertically aligned. We're right on top of it. Jumping up to 2 miles at the 700 millibar, so around 10,000 feet above the ocean surface. Again, we have vertical alignment. Jumping up to the 500 millibar, or now we're getting into the mid-levels, or around 18,000 feet. We have coherency through the entire vertical column. Now, when we get up to the 250 millibar level, this is approximately 6 miles above the ocean surface. And at this point, this is kind of the exhaust in the upper level environment in which the air is evacuating in the top of the storms. As you can see, we are developing an upper level anticyclone which spins in the opposite direction. But this time it's not. So we are definitely getting a bombing of pressures here. Rapid intensification. This looks to be that it is trying to vertically stretch all the way up into, this would be amazing if this were to verify, because it is going to create its own environment. It will eventually end up spinning in the opposite direction there into those upper levels, and you can kind of see that with some of the outflow that we are going to incur on here. So we are definitely going to have a very conducive environment associated with this, and rapid intensification is going to take place in earnest very shortly. Right now, we do not have any hurricane reconnaissance aircraft in the system itself, but our rapid intensification models, though with the AI ships, it's not very high, but when we get to the D tops, extreme. And rapid intensification is specifically forecast by the National Hurricane Center. So, though we might see some lower values here from the ship's run for its rapid intensification, it's going to rapidly intensify. There's really no doubt about that. The maximum basin intensity right now would support 166 knots of maximum wind speed. So sustained wind speed at that. Our looking at the University of Wisconsin and some of the Dorvac, we've got 65 knots, 69 knots, D-print down to 57. They fluctuate back and forth. And then we have still some older that are older than 3 hours old. I really only pay attention to the stuff when it comes to this. When we get into the green, that's when it's like, okay, we've got fresh information here that we can play with. When you get to 3 to 6 hours old, and when you're dealing with something that is likely to approach rapid intensification, at that point, yeah. And let's see if we can get some microwave imagery here from Cyclonic WX. Yeah, we're almost getting a closed eye wall here. When that was, it's 1421. Let's see here. So this is a couple hours old, but it's definitely organizing there into a full-blown eye wall feature. And you can see also with this, we may have a eye wall. Like they said there in the discussion, it kind of comes and goes, but eventually one of those times it's going to stick. And when it does, the pressures will begin to plummet rapidly with this particular setup. Looking at our wind speed probabilities, Guantanamo Bay, you have increased. You are now up to 62% tropical storm force winds, 31% 50-knot winds, and our 14% for hurricane force winds. Montego Bay, you guys have gone up a little bit. We're looking at 94% chance of seeing those tropical storm force winds, 68% chance of seeing those 50-knot winds, and a 44% chance of seeing those hurricane force winds, though that 44 might have come down just a little bit. I think that was just a couple points higher in the previous primary advisory, but please don't hold me to that. I look at so many numbers, it's kind of difficult to remember one specific number of many. So Kingston, we're now 96% chance of seeing tropical storm force winds. That's almost guaranteed at this point in time. A 70% chance of seeing those 50 knot or 58 mile an hour winds. And we are now up to 47% for our hurricane force winds. Our areas here into Haiti on the southern peninsula there, the southwestern peninsula, we're running into the mid-30s for tropical storm force winds. Not to about a 1 in 8 chance of seeing those 50-knot winds. Scrolling up, my iguana here, 58% chance of tropical storm force winds, 31% chance of 50 knot winds, 17% chance of seeing those hurricane force winds. Grand Turk on the Turks and Caicos Island, in the Turks and Caicos Islands, 41% chance of seeing tropical storm force winds, 15% chance of seeing those 50 knot or 58-mile-an-hour winds, 7% chance of seeing those hurricane force winds. So, folks, up the line, getting into parts of the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, especially there on eastern Cuba. The storm is not to you yet. Now is the time to prepare. Time is one thing that you can never get back. Once it's gone, it's gone. So please use this time wisely to make preparations if you are in the area into which this storm will be traveling through in a few days. Our rainfall forecast. This is catastrophic rains. There's no question about it. This is a 4-day rainfall forecast. Isolated areas of 30 inches here on the western tip of the Tiburon Peninsula of southwestern Haiti. Isolated 30 inches plus on the eastern edge of Jamaica, getting in and around the Kingston area. Forecast rainfall is a lot less out here for the western portions of the island, but we will get a new update for this rainfall forecast here soon over the next couple advisories. So we will see if those rainfall totals for western Jamaica continue to hold steady, or will they rise? Right now, 2 to 4 inches for areas in and around Montego Bay, which doesn't sound too overly bad looking at what we are looking at, and including even folks here into the southwestern Dominican Republic with an isolated 20 inches and a widespread 8 to 12 regardless located in this orange. So, folks, very, very serious situation here unfolding, that if we come out of this without a humanitarian disaster, I will consider that as being kind of lucky. And unfortunately, it looks to be the strongest impact that Jamaica may have ever seen if this forecast verifies, which would exceed Hurricane Gilbert back in 1988. And I remember that storm vividly. I might have been young, but I remember that storm very, very well. That was the storm that intrigued me with the tropics as a young child. I can't say child, but I was young. All right, the total rainfall precipitation. Now we have the 6Z Euro on the left and the new 12Z GFS on the right. If you guys have seen any of these graphics in our previous lives, you have noticed that the GFS has been drowning Hispaniola with a ton of rain. Everything staying to the east, everything staying to the east. Well, as of the 12Z run, not so much anymore. It is looking eerily similar to what we see with the Euro. So that means that the 12Z GFS has now shifted back to the left and shifted back and joined a lot of the other guidance associated with it. Our key messages. This is critical. I really appreciate the way that Dr. Pappen is creating these categorized key messages for the different countries. Key message number 1 for Jamaica. Melissa's slow movement will bring a multi-day period of damaging winds and heavy rainfall beginning tonight, likely causing catastrophic flash flooding, numerous landslides, extensive infrastructural damage, long-duration power and communication outages, and potentially prolonged isolation of communities. A life-threatening storm surge is also likely along portions of the southern coast early next week. All preparations should be completed today. Rush them to completion immediately, folks. That's an upgrade. We're looking at extensive infrastructural damage, long duration power and communication outage, and potentially prolonged isolation of communities. That's, you can't get much worse than that, folks. You really can't. And, I do know of many disaster response organizations here in the United States that are making preparations to try to get to Jamaica. And I do know that one of the world, I'd probably say the most world famous hurricane chaser, has dispatched and is on his way to Montego Bay now. I know folks here in the United States, everybody wants to know where Jim Cantore is, and everybody gets nervous when Jim Cantore shows up on scene. Jim Cantore is the least of my worries when it comes to that. If you ever see Josh Morgan with iCyclone show up in your neighborhood and decide that that's where he's going to be, that's where you don't want to be, because he does nothing but chase the core of the storm, or the eye of the storm. That's all he's after. He is trying to deploy equipment and get some pressure readings and everything like that. And he's been through some absolute monsters. And if he has chosen to come to your location, that's where you do not need to be. Key message number 2: Haiti. Catastrophic and life-threatening flash flooding and landslides are expected across southwestern Haiti into early next week, likely causing extensive infrastructural damage and potentially prolonged isolation of communities. Strong winds could also potentially last for a day or more over the Tiburon Peninsula. Dominican Republic. Heavy rainfall could produce potentially catastrophic flash flooding and numerous landslides in southern regions. For eastern Cuba, southeastern Bahamas, and the Turks and Caicos, monitor Melissa closely. And I do want to include the central Bahamas into this. I know it doesn't say that, but I am going to include you guys into this as well. Monitor Melissa closely. Now, there may not be the risk of all of those for the central Bahamas, but you guys need to monitor Melissa closely. There is an increasing risk of significant storm surge, damaging winds, and heavy rainfall by the middle of next week. In eastern Cuba, the risk of life-threatening flash flooding and landslides is increasing. There is also one thing that I do want to mention that I have noticed that we do not have in any of our key messages, so I do want to come back to the track. And I am going to get the interactive map out for this one. We're going to flip it over and we are going to zoom in to our friends here on Jamaica. All right. When this storm gets to, say, we'll just throw this out there. Say the storm is here in this position in the future. This onshore flow is where we are going to see the greatest amount of storm surge. Obviously, the greatest amount would be the one that would be closest to the center, where the strongest winds will push that water up onshore. There's something else that I want to discuss that is not being mentioned. And if you notice, there is no graphic for this either. On the eastern side, and especially getting into the northeastern quadrant, we could see tornadic thunderstorms and water spouts coming in off of the open waters on the eastern side of the storm. So wherever this storm is located, how far west this storm gets, at that point, that's where we may have to watch for the potential of those quick spin up tornadoes. And as you can see with some of our topography, this onshore wind flow that we would have that would drive water up into the harbors. If you look at all of this terrain here, that is going to end up draining back this way and trying to drain out that way. It is this portion of that draining that I am very concerned with because of this onshore wind pushing that water up against the coastline. This water here into the highlands and coming off of the hills is not really going to have anywhere to go because it can't drain out. And that then brings a very, for me personally, brings a very large concern to this metropolitan area in and around Kingston and St. Andrew. St. Catherine, you're also kind of in this as well, but it are these hills here in and around Cedar Valley, the National Park of Blue and John Crow Mountains. All right, this is the area. Now, anybody that lives up here in these areas, I don't know what your I don't know what your official sources are saying. I am going to recommend that you get out of this region, that you leave this elevated terrain. And that's just off of the experiences that we saw with Hurricane Helene into the Western Carolinas last year with the landslides and the severing of the roadways, the communication loss, the abilities of you may be trapped for an extremely long period of time. The only way it'd be aircraft. It would likely be the only way that you can get in and out of here with helicopters. So please, folks, this elevated terrain here, especially on this eastern portion of the island, has very large concerns of mine. Please consider a different location if you live in this region. I'm just afraid that you will be cut off from other communities for an extended period of time. And again, I want no loss of life. I want everybody to be safe. And if Jamaica, if y'all could come out of this with no loss of life, man, I would literally just want to come down there and give the ground in which you guys live on a hug and say thank you. And then, we'll definitely turn around and use that as the case in point to let everybody else know, especially up here into the United States, that you take these things seriously and you try to stay safe. My big concern, yes, I am petrified of this storm. No, hands down, no doubt. My biggest concern is after the storm passes, the long duration disaster recovery that is required from a high-end category 4, potentially category 5 system. In many cases, it takes years to recover from this. I can tell you, living here personally in the panhandle of Florida, around Tallahassee, around the capital of the state of Florida, if I were to get in my vehicle and I were to drive west along the panhandle of Florida, I can still, to this day, very clearly see the damage and exactly where the eye of Hurricane Michael that occurred in 2018, you could still see the damage to this day in 2025. So we are looking at a very, very large impact, large, long duration recovery process for Jamaica. And I can say, I can say this with confidence. There are numerous disaster response organizations here in the United States ready for deployment immediately after this storm exits. And if we can get in, I mean, obviously, if the ports are damaged and stuff like that, we got to get, the airports, you got to get the runway cleared, you got to get, things in order. But as soon as those things get in order, without question, you will have the cavalry is coming. I don't know how much of the cavalry, but I do know the cavalry is coming. I know that the cavalry is getting ready to ride, so they're going somewhere. And I've heard quite a bit of them headed towards Jamaica. So please, folks, rush all preparations to immediate completion and stay safe. That's all I ask. That's why we're doing all of these lives. I want nothing from anybody. I don't care about anything other than keeping folks safe. That's the 2 p.m. We got a hurricane. We got to have a hurricane. We do have a hurricane. I knew it. I could tell. It just dawned on me that that is hurricane force winds. And we are at 75 miles an hour. Okay, let's do our new public advisory. We are, as of the 2 p.m. intermediate advisory, we are located at 16.6 north, 75.2 degrees west, 145 miles southeast of Kingston, Jamaica, 235 miles southwest of Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Maximum sustained winds are now up to 75 miles an hour. Movement still continues west-northwest at 1 mile an hour. We are just blazing through. This is like being stalked by a turtle, folks. Minimum central pressure down to 980 millibars. We had no changes with this advisory. Our hurricane warning and tropical storm warnings still remain in effect. Hazards affecting land. We already read all this. We'll see if there's any differences. No. Everything still remains the same from the 11 a.m. advisory. 15 to 25 inches with possible 35 inches. And surge 7 to 11 feet. And then obviously 5 to 10 here in eastern Cuba with 15 inches. We will not get a track change with the intermediate advisory. There is no adjustment of track, and we will also not get a new forecaster's discussion with this. The one thing we might get is a rainfall update, but no. We might get an 18Z rainfall graphic. Currently, we are still sitting with the 12Z, and we will not have new key messages. All of that is updated with the primary advisories that occur at 5 and 11 a.m. and p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So every 6 hours, every 5 and 11 Eastern Daylight Time. That's when primary advisories are issued. And yes, we do have this thing out there in the Eastern Pacific, but that's not what this is about. We will discuss that at our next live at 6 p.m., where we go all across the world. And there's definitely some activity ongoing on the other side of the planet with the enhanced Madden-Julian oscillation phase really causing some issues. Now, before we sign off here for a little while this afternoon, I do want to stress we've got a database here tied with our particular page. And if you scroll down here, we are going to rename all of these, get them into like the Atlantic Basin and whatever, what have you. But if you scroll here to the North America tab, you will get a whole bunch of countries that lead direct links to official meteorological agencies across the world. And when I say across the world, I really mean it. You can go out to Asia, you can go to Africa, you can go to South America. We've got some quick links here. That's kind of, I'm not going to lie, this is kind of set up for me. There's another one that I need to put in there, but I will do that at a later date when I get to talk to Kylie. But again, I mean, even Antarctica and the research stations. So there's a lot of information that can be obtained from this database. Here we are, Government of Jamaica, the official website of Jamaica. They are issuing hurricane bulletins and news releases. As you can see, bulletin number 29. They've been constantly trying to update everybody. So, folks there in Jamaica, please go to your official source there and get the information. They know, they take the information from the National Hurricane Center and then apply their knowledge of your local region. And also, within this, I'm actually going to duplicate this because I don't want to lose this. Too many requests. I know I've been driving you guys crazy. I know I've been stalking. That just goes to show you how bad I've been stalking this particular storm. They're yelling at me, and I'm giving too many requests. So I do apologize, Jamaican government. I am just trying to communicate the information to the folks out there, and I want to use the official sources specifically. We don't hype here. As far as Haiti is concerned, they did give out a bulletin here at 11 a.m. their local time. They have now issued a red alert. You can't get any higher than that. And they are trying to prepare as best as they can for the impacts that will be seen there onto their portion of the island of Hispaniola. So please, again, folks, follow the official sources. We've got here, we're jumping over to the Dominican Republic, and we get all of that information here. Now, they update constantly. So please check back with your official sources. I cannot stress this enough. Use the official sources. They are there for a reason. Cuba hasn't updated since 6 a.m. their time. Let me hit the refresh on that. This will take a second. So while that is doing that, I'm going to now jump over to the Bahamas. As you can see here, the Bahamas are also issuing news items and bulletins regarding the potential impacts for their region and their residents. Please, folks, follow the official sources because, look, the Bahamas Department of Meteorology encourages all residents and visitors, particularly in the central and southeastern Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands, to monitor the progress or Tropical Storm Melissa through our updates. Now, this was obviously issued here at 12 p.m. I think this was supposed to be not or, but again, their next news item will be issued at 6 p.m. So again, they are giving themselves an hour to take the information coming from the National Hurricane Center. They go over all the data, all the information, and then use their knowledge of the local area and then apply it there. So if you are ordered to evacuate, leave, you got to go. They're the ones that they're no disaster management, emergency management. These folks, and I don't care what the narrative is in the political world or whatever, you're not going to find people that are going to come up to you and order you to evacuate for no reason. There's always a reason behind it. There is either the flooding portion of the threat or a surge portion of the threat or whatever the threat may be. If an evacuation is ordered, please heed the advice from your local officials and follow those directives. Please. I mean, that's how we keep people safe. That's how we keep the fatality count hopefully to zero, or at least on the low end. I'm afraid with this one, after it's all said and done with, after we go across all of the islands and kind of add everything up, I hope this doesn't come with a comma. I would love to see the number being completely zero, but I have fears that we are going to see the fatality count having to need a comma for the full breadth of the numbers. And no, they have not issued an update since 6 a.m. All right, Cuba, come on now. We can get on it. I know you guys are pretty quick with that, and you didn't touch the 11 a.m. advisory. Please, ladies, let's. And the next tropical cyclone warning will be issued at 6 p.m. Today. So, unfortunately, they're only doing every 12-hour updates. I would like to see that kick into maybe every 6, just to keep their folks well informed of the latest information. Turks and Caicos. Let's see. Have you guys decided to get anything on that? Not yet. Last advisory that was issued on their website was for Aaron. So we do not have anything from them just yet. That's why we monitor the Bahamas, because they kind of help cover that as well. And over to the Cayman Islands. We don't really have much of the threat has been reduced for the Caymans, but again, we still keep this up because you never know. There is still some uncertainty in the forecast track, and my concern isn't necessarily with Grand Cayman that shows up in the wind speed probability graphics. The ones that don't show up are Little Cayman and Cayman Brac, and that is going to be a little bit closer. So I would imagine that their probabilities and potentials, especially for rough surf, are going to be quite high. How much we see for wind and rain, that remains to be seen. It's as you could see, 455 miles southeast of Grand Cayman, but only 380 miles southeast of Cayman Brac. So there is a considerable amount of distance between the islands that could just lead to a little bit more of peripheral impacts. Definitely not direct impacts, but some peripheral impacts could be felt and definitely will be felt through the rough surf and potential rip currents there. Now, I'm going to run through the models real quick just to show everybody kind of the guidance here. The 6Z Euro has pretty much buried Jamaica, and again, the official forecast is calling for landfall there into Jamaica. And another thing that I do need to point out, this goes out 6 days. Folks in Bermuda, it's kind of been a theme of 2025 that where you got to watch anything that really gets, like, hey, we've got a hurricane up, it's time for Bermuda. We might have it again. So folks in Bermuda, granted it might be 5-6 days away, please just monitor the progress of this storm. Let me see. I was trying to get the 12Z. Do we have it yet? Yes, we do. All right, let's get down into the Caribbean. Let's see what the GEFS ensembles are calling for. Still a decent amount of cross-track spread from left to right, and that would then put a timing discrepancy and timing issues there involved. But this is not a lot different than what we saw earlier. But again, a huge threat for our friends down there in Jamaica. Now, the Euro AI, as mentioned there in the forecaster's discussion by Dr. Papin, as you can see, it does really good with track. It has all year long. It doesn't do well with intensity, but it has done amazing with track. So I wouldn't necessarily look too much into the intensity on this. We've already got it down to 980 millibars. All of those blue lines that you see, their very minimum before it'll change to that red color is 980. So on our next advisory, knowing that this is intensifying, all of these colors, all of these lines should represent red. But we don't see that. But they do really, really good with the track, just not so much with intensity. The Google DeepMind, on the other hand, this has been pretty much I could almost call it a game changer for the tropics this year. This one certainly is going to take home the number one model crown for the season, and it's not even really been close. The Google DeepMind has been an amazing addition and an amazing upgrade to tropical cyclone guidance. As we could see with the Google DeepMind, we kind of have two separate camps, one here and one there, of tracks over portions of the island, with the mean obviously kind of splitting the difference there. So again, we've only got one ensemble member out here that does not have a direct landfall onto Jamaica. That's each one of these lines represent 2%. And all of them have the wind speeds category 4, category 5. All of them. So I can't stress this enough for the folks in Jamaica. Please, please, please rush all preparations to completion, because once this event starts, it's going to last for days, and then the core of the storm is going to approach. That's scary. I'm not going to lie, folks. That's very scary. These types of systems are generational in their impacts and life-changing for so many. I've been through similar stuff to this before. I've lost everything that I've had to a hurricane. So I know what it feels like from a personal experience. I know what that post-storm recovery feels like from a personal experience. And that's why I'm begging people, please rush all preparations to completion, because this has catastrophic situation and potential humanitarian crisis written all over it. I hope I'm wrong. I would, if there's any time with any storm, I'd love to be wrong now. I don't want a disaster. I don't want anybody to suffer. Unfortunately. All right. Now, one thing that I do want to show here, I'm not going to go too deep into this. I've got the 6Z Euro on the left, the 12Z GFS on the right. This is our 850 millibar cyclonic vorticity. This is specifically designed to measure areas of spin or vorticity approximately 5,000 feet or around 1 mile above the ocean surface. And the reason that I want to show this is I want everybody to see how the GFS has shifted back to the left. As you can see here now, somewhere in that range of the kind of the Kingston area, Old Harbor area, that's where that's where the GFS is calling for now. That is a discernible left shift. There's no question about it. That is a significant shift to the left from a lot of its previous runs. And now it shows in its previous runs, it was barely clipping the extreme eastern edge of the island. Now has full-blown landfall. Uh-oh. What happened? Oh, really? Oh, Jason. Well, guess what there, buddy? Um, you know what? You have to actually exercise a little bit of patience, sir. Why I don't have subs? Well, let me put it to you like this. I'm not here for fame and fortune. Never have been, never will be. So you can find other people if you'd like. I have no problems with that. I'm not here to impress anybody. I am here to try to keep people safe. And if you've got a problem with that, please, by all means, feel free. Bounce. I don't care. I'm not your normal person that does this. I've already won nationally recognized awards for what I do. I don't need subs. I don't do any promotions. I don't advertise. I don't comment as the page or the entity itself. I like to keep it somewhat small because if you make it big, then you get comments like that. And I'll have to say it. It's people nowadays over social media will say things that they would never say personally. You feel safe behind the computer. Now, I'm not saying anything like that, but that's the way that it is generally seen over social media. You get what's known as quote unquote keyboard warriors. Be a warrior. Go ahead. Doesn't bother me. Get along. Pick up your spear, jump on your horse, and ride to the sunset. I don't care. At the end of the day, obviously the forecast ain't for you. It is what it is. All right, everybody. I am going to go ahead and sign off here for a little while. I will be back at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. And then this time we will jump out and go talk about Sonya out there and Changi and see and check in on our friends out there into the Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal, and to the southern Indian Ocean, and obviously the Western Pacific as well. There is one that is potentially going to threaten the Philippines here in the upcoming, I'd say next week, maybe the end of this upcoming week, somewhere in that range. So, all right, everybody. I will be back here in about a little under 4 hours. So, please, again, folks out there, please stay safe. Please rush all preparations to completion. And again, we'll be back with the 5 p.m. advisory here in, you know, a little bit later. And do our best. We'll be live again tonight at 10:45 Eastern. Uh, just to we're trying to do what we can. We communicate the official information, and that's that. And it's for me, when I get to talking, I like to download the information and then I'll check back on the questions. And if people can't exercise patience, well, that's a you problem, not a me problem. So with that, have a wonderful afternoon, everybody. I'll talk to you again here in a couple